land of freedom. He's the redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy.
Wanted to know what we do, and I told my lawyer that I will handle it. But you know, Professor Raymond Atuguba will not allow me to go alone. So he insists he wants to be there with me. But I had to put some conditions for which he will be there, because I'm not going to be restrained from what I'm going to say. And so if he knows he's coming there to want to hold me from saying the things that I want to say at the CID, he shouldn't come, because if he does, I will disown him. And so we have an understanding that I'll be allowed to speak my heart to the CID. Since they want it, they will get it from me. I have told them the worst they can do, lock me up 48 hours, take me to court, court imprisons me. I will not stop talking. Kwame, I'm also expecting the CID to invite IDEC. I am expecting them to invite Send Ghana, who also issued a very, what do I call it, bleak situation surrounding the new voters register. I'm expecting them to invite the Center for the Democratic Development, CDD, because they have also issued a statement indicating that the rate and the way the Electoral Commission is proceeding, that Ghana will be plunged into calamity. So I'm expecting them to invite them. I'm expecting them to invite the majority leader, who says that if a new register is not compiled, the Ghana will not be in peace. I'm expecting them to invite them so that Monday we can all meet.
Then I'm sure they have to invite Obrigboahin.
No, Obrigboahin said they will beat us, and I said that we will beat each other, because I swear that if Obrigboahin touch me, I will slap him 3 times. Yes, the least touch, I will slap him 3 times. So they threat by Obrigboahin that they will beat us, and he can't even. All these institutions are cautioning you from Imani Ghana that don't lead us onto such a perilous path. The EC said they will not listen, and when we are cautioning the EC, and we are telling them that we will resist, which has been my catchword, that we will resist the EC, a media house decided that they are going to publish the story, and the caption that will disrupt the process. It is not my fault. That media house chose that they are going to disrupt. I said we'll resist, and I've been resisting anyway. I've been resisting the Electoral Commission's useless attempt to change the register. If it is not
20 people, 20 lives may have been lost in that boat accident alone. Very, very sad news that came out yesterday is reported on the front page of the Graphic this morning. But thank you very much for joining us this morning on the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We are live from the studios of Pan-African Television. My name is Sena, Nombo, and once again we'll bring you some frank discussions on the major issues that made news this week. But as we speak this morning, our total case count in terms of COVID-19 is 7,616 in the country. 34 deaths now, and Accra alone, the greater Accra region alone, has recorded 5,331 of those cases. Recorded 5,331 of those cases. Ashanti region is closely behind, but not too close, with 1,160 cases. So that is our situation as we speak now. Because as of yesterday, the major news item that's currently trending is that it's gotten onshore. So offshore, we are talking about the rigs, oil rigs, where they drill for oil. FPSO Kwame Nkrumah, where some cases have been recorded. We are looking at more than 50 cases, 57 on one of the platforms. So it's getting perhaps out of hand. But we are expecting, possibly, because all the ministers have given indication of that, the president announcing a roadmap to the lifting of instructions. What will be the basis of that? We'll be hearing more on that on Sunday, so something to look forward to. But the major news item this week was trending for a long time was the issue of the landlord who shot his tenant dead. Very, very interesting story, very sad story, and the details as they come along are both comic and also very, very sad, and we expect better from people. Well, we'll take a break. When we come back, I'll introduce the topic and my panel for today. This is the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji, live on Pan-African TV. We are live on Ahunto 92.3 FM within the greater Accra metropolis. A big thank you to our partner stations across the country. We are, of course, live on Facebook. It's Pan-African Television. Pan-African Television. You can watch and share your thoughts. We will also be displaying a number across the screen as we go along. You can use that number to send us a text message or a WhatsApp message. Stick and stay with us.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great song, Sergeant Dr. Nkrumah.
Welcome back from that break. If you just joined us, a good morning to you, and thanks for choosing Pan-African Television. Of course, if you're listening to us on radio, it is most probably true. If you are within the Accra metropolis, that is most probably true, the Ahunto 92.3 FM. But there are several other radio partners that are currently tuning to us and broadcasting us. A big thank you to all of them. If you're watching us through, or if you're listening to us through any of those platforms, you can share your thoughts with us. You can be an active part of this show, and that is very, very important. My name is Sena Nombo. My panel this morning is made up of Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr., who's managing editor of the Insight newspaper. Always happy to share his insight with us on this program. We are joined today also by Dr. Adomako Kisi, who is a member of the communications team of the New Patriotic Party. Very importantly, he is aspiring to be the New Patriotic Party's candidate in Anya Soutum, for that parliamentary seat that the current occupier of the seat, that's the foreign affairs minister, has decided she will not contest again. So that opens a way for Doc, and Doc is working assiduously to be the parliamentary candidate of the New Patriotic Party in that constituency. But we will have a member of parliament with us. He is also the ranking member on the health committee, Kobna Minta Akando, member of parliament for Joaboso. We are hoping to be joined by Kojo Chomboa, for a very good friend, who is a leading member of the National Democratic Congress. Well, this morning, a major issue for discussion is the issue of Mr. Bernard Mornah's invitation by the Criminal Investigations Department. Those are all linked to the move by the Electoral Commission to compile a new voters register. Well, a press conference was held by the Inter-Party Resistance against the new voters register, and he made some comments that the EC says amounts to a threat against them, and they've reported him to the CID, and the CID has invited him. He has been speaking. He says he was advising them, and the EC has subsequently gone on to also announce that there will be a voter registration in the last week of June. No specific date yet. They've gone on to announce how the registration would happen. And also this week, a lot has been heard on the case that has been sent to the Supreme Court by the National Democratic Congress, challenging the move by the EC to compile a new voters register. We understand that Attorney General has filed a defense. The Electoral Commission has also filed a defense. The matter will be heard on June 4th. So we'll be speaking about Mr. Bernard Mornah's invitation as it relates to the other matters with regards to the compilation of a new voters register by the Electoral Commission. And then we'll spend some time and talk about what we all expect to happen on Sunday. The president announced a roadmap towards the lifting of restrictions that was put in place to ensure that our cases in terms of COVID-19 do not spike. So we'll be talking about that in our second topic. Then we'll spend some time, and then in our third topic, the issue we'll be talking about the borrowing that is going on, because the finance minister went to Parliament this week and indicated that they would like to borrow 10 billion Ghana cedis from the Bank of Ghana. Don't forget, a couple of billions have been borrowed already. The question that people are asking is what those monies are being used and committed to. And so we'll be talking about that in our third topic. Thanks for joining us this morning, and please do be an active part of the show. Once again, a big thank you to our partners. Well, we'll start with Mr. Bernard Mornah's issue, specifically relating to his invitation to the CID. I wanted to go through what he's been saying about the invitation that has been extended to him. Well, he says he was only cautioning and advising the EC against the road they are taking. And this is a story by Graphic Online, and it's headlined Bernard Mornah's reaction to CID invitation. I only cautioned the EC. And it reads, the chairman of the People's National Convention, Mr. Bernard Mornah, has said he only cautioned the Electoral Commission on the chaos that could come up should it decide to go ahead with the new voters registration exercise. The Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service has invited Mr. Mornah to assist with an investigation it is conducting into an allegation of threats against the EC, should it decide to go ahead with the compilation of a new voters register in late June 2020. The police have sent an invitation letter to him asking that he should report at the CID headquarters on Tuesday, June 2, 2020 at 10 a.m. Okay, so this is what the CID is saying, that the letter that they've sent to Mr. Mornah, portions of it read, the CID headquarters is investigating a case in which you were alleged to have threatened to resist any attempt by the Electoral Commission to compile a new voters register for the 2020 general elections. You were also heard in a video interview to have threatened that people who are already Ghanaians and already registered are going to be taken out of the register. Don't you think confusion will come at the registration? And if confusion comes there, you think the EC staff will be safe? We will beat each other there. We will kill each other there. If that is what the EC wants to lead this nation to. That's a quote. That is portions of the invitation letter that's dated May 28, 2020 and signed by Berima Chunibu Asasrako II, a Deputy Commissioner of Police for the Director General of the CID. Now, Mr. Mornah, in his response, said his statement was a caution to the EC if it was, quote, intending to flip us Ghanaians through this dangerous path. They should know that there would be confusion. The National Democratic Congress has backed a lot, wholly what Mr. Mornah has said. They believe that, well, that is obviously what the EC is inviting. And so that's our very first issue that we are talking about this morning, the issue of the compilation of a new voters register. I'll start from my left, Honorable Kobna Minta Akando, and take his thoughts on what is happening in terms of the compilation of a new voters register. Honorable.
Yeah, thank you very much. And let me say good morning to my colleagues on the panel and everybody watching us this morning. Sena, I believe that, as you rightly read, the statement made by Bernard Mornah was a conditional statement. If Bernard Mornah had indicated that he was going to cause confusion at every polling station or every registration center, and whilst everything was going on normally, whilst there was no challenges or problems about the registration, then probably I would have agreed with the CID describing such statements as threat. But if he said that people whose names were on the register, if they take those names out of the register, then the EC will be inviting chaos. Don't you think so? You don't think so? You do not think that people, legitimate Ghanaians who have their names on the register, and then the EC decides to take their names out of the register, you think that everything will be well with this country? I don't think so. So for me, well, probably there is more to it that I have not heard. But listening to what you have read and what I have heard in the media, I don't see anything that anybody will attempt to describe it as a threat. Because, and it is true, I am a member of parliament. I have been involved in election issues as far back as 2004. And I have actively been part of every electoral process, from a constituency executive member to regional executive member to a candidate to a member of parliament. I have actively been involved, and I know what happens during those processes. You understand? So you think that if you take my father's name from the register and you tell my father that because he has no, what do you call it, a passport or national identification authority card, his name is not going to be in the register, and that I should go and guarantee for my father that, or testify that my father is a Ghanaian, everything will be well. You go to communities where nobody has a passport, nobody has a national identification card, including their chiefs, and then people will be coming from elsewhere because they have passports and they have a national identification authority card. They are registering, and they will be sitting down looking at the people to register and go. You see, let us be realistic. Let us be realistic. Now let me come back to why even the need for for a compilation of a new register. And since the Electoral Commission announced the compilation of a new register, everything about the compilation of a new register goes against the Electoral Commission and the MPP as a political party. Number one, why are we calling for a new register? We have a register that, per the words of the EC's boss, the register is good enough. And this statement was made in Parliament. A register that has been used to vote in 2016 elections that the MPP claimed that they won with a margin of 1 million votes. A register that was used in electing me and other 274 members of Parliament. A register that was used in creating not less than 6 regions in this country. A register that was used in selecting thousands of assembly members in this country. A register that I believe shall be used if today we have a by-election. A register that the Electoral Commission, the boss herself, has stated that it is good enough. All of a sudden, there is every effort to compile a new register. And if you listen to the previous statements that has been made by, the commissioners, you can only come to a conclusion that probably there is some powers elsewhere that is trying to manipulate the Electoral Commission. Because they say one thing, they said one thing yesterday, and today they are contradicting themselves. And I don't believe that they are not intelligent. They are very, very intelligent people there. Anybody who suggests that they are not intelligent, I would disagree with the person. Except that they are being manipulated. And when you are being manipulated, you don't work on your own. So you make a statement today, and because you don't know what will happen tomorrow, your actions tomorrow will contradict your statement you made yesterday. And that is exactly what is happening today. So why the need for a new register? And since the EC announced that there's going to be a new register, there hasn't been any single reason that, in my humble opinion, makes sense that there should be the need for a compilation of a new register. A single reason. I've heard reasons to the effect that the current register we have is bloated. I don't know whether you have two people having the same thumbprint. And these were the very arguments that were made before the current register was compiled. And so I do not know the only conclusion probably I will come to is that there is an attempt to rig the impending elections. And for me, anybody who thinks that elections can be rigged only on the day of voting, it means you don't know anything about elections. Because don't forget that if you don't have your name in the register, there's no way you can vote. So if the UC succeeds in restricting or minimizing the number of votes in your strongholds, and let us not pretend about this, we have our strong, every political party in this country has its stronghold. And evidence have been adduced, because if you look at the numbers that we saw after the NIA registration, you realize that, I mean, there is that machination going on, you know. And so there is, for me, the very first time I realized that there was a scheme in place, and that the UC was going according to a script, was when Charlotte Osei was fired. And that was the first step. Let's fire her, get a lot of our people in there so that we can manipulate them. And that is exactly what is happening. Because it is extremely surprising when the director in charge of elections at the UC has stated in a video that even if there's going to be a compilation of a new register, the voter ID card will be accepted as a requirement for the new registration. And I have the video on my phone. And within a short time, they bring a CI taking those requirements out. And you know, I'm a member of the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, and a very interesting, it was very dramatic when they appeared before the committee. You know, normally, if you lay a CI, okay, you cannot change anything in the CI. The only thing you can do is either it passes automatically, or you gather not less than 2/3 of the members of parliament to kick it out. These are the only two options. So once you lay a CI, you either wait for the 21 sitting days for it to mature, or you gather not less than 2/3 of the members of parliament to kick against it. Now, parliament realized that most of the times you realize that there are fundamental errors in the CIs. So any CI will do what we call pre-laying. So they appear before the Subsidiary Legislation Committee so that we go through, so that if there is no need for anybody to correct anything or to kick against anything, then the CI automatically passes. Unfortunately, in the case of the Electoral Commission, they lay the CI before coming for the pre-laying, before appearing before the committee. And when they came, we realized that in the amendment they are filing, the portion they are amending in the CI 92 is missing on the surface of the new one. So we asked them to go back and correct it. Then they came back again. When they came back, that portion together with the CI 92 was supposed to be gazetted. That one too was not done. So we asked them to go back and do it. When they appeared the third time, we raised issues. And so if I hear anybody saying that, members of the minority were all at the committee or were all in parliament, and we agreed that the voter's ID card must be taken out, then obviously the person is not even attempting to know what really happens at parliament or in parliament. We raise all these legitimate issues. Okay, but what it is that even at the committee level, if they insist, especially when it has to do with policy, if the sponsor agency insists that they are not going to amend or they are not going to correct it, you have nothing to do than to organize not less than 2/3 of the members of parliament to kick against it. And so that is what we are seeing through for it to be matured. And I've had issues of facial recognition and that the amendment will take. There's absolutely nothing like that in the new one. Absolutely nothing like that in the new one. Okay? And so you ask yourself, why this haste in trying to compile a new register? And don't forget, Sena, people are thinking about the rigging aspect, the economical aspect, but the frustration that the registrants, that you and I go through when we are registering, is no joke. In my constituency, people travel not less than 5 kilometers to a polling station, to a registration center. And people spend not less than 3 days. Some people spend not less than 3 days at a registration center. They go the first time, the second time, the third time before they get registered. Even in Accra, you see stones being lined up representing human beings to get registered. And we are entering June. We are still talking about the compilation of a new register. And we are projecting to register not less than 17 million people per the statistical department. That is what we are projecting to do. And I have heard that we are going to do these registrations per center about 6 days or so. 6 days per center.
Yeah, 6 days per center.
Sena, you and I know very well that they can do a maximum of 100 people per day, maximum, under normal circumstances, without restrictions. In my constituency, the highest we have done in every registration center, the highest was, I think, 92
Per day.
per day. The highest. And that is all things being equal. The highest. Okay? And now you are given 6 days. And the 6 days you are seeking to register more than 17 million people. Quite apart from that, there are a lot of hurdles you need to jump that we have never been confronted with before during our previous registrations, i.e. COVID-19. Which means that you must observe religiously all the precautionary measures at the registration center. So what it means is that you must make running water available for people to wash their hands. Everybody must be on mask. People must get hand sanitizers. There should be some more than 1 meter up, apart in the queue. So you can only imagine how many people will be registered when you are observing the precautionary measures. The time the people will take to wash their hands, the time people will take to sanitize their hands, and what have you. So certainly, for me, it may not be possible that a particular registration center can register more than 60 people a day. More than 60 people a day, if you are going to observe these, precautionary measures. And even quite apart from that, any machine, they must sanitize it after, every individually. Once you go there, after you use it, it must be sanitized before the next person. And all these things are going to be done, and we have not taken care of that. Again, quite apart from that, you realize that the requirements for the registration, if you go to some communities in my constituency, for example, I can tell you on authority that you cannot get more than 2 people possessing passports. Not more than 2 people. Yes, you heard me right. In some of in my communities. And when you are compiling any register to vote for people to exercise their franchise, normally what you should be looking for is the commonest legitimate document that can get the majority of the people's names on the register. And you think that commonest document is the passport? How many people in this country possess passports? Something around 2 million. And the NIA, how many people even got their names on the register? And how many people even got their cards anyway? How many people? So the documents or the requirements are very scarce, very difficult to come by. But this is what the Electoral Commission is insisting on. When the Electoral Commission members, or very ranking members in the commission have indicated that they were going to use the voter ID card. What has changed? And up till now, I have not heard a single reason for the exclusion of the voter's ID card. Not a single reason that makes sense for the exclusion of the voter's ID card. And so what it means is that if they are not going to accept the voter's ID card, which is the commonest, and they are going to go by the passport, the NIA card, and 2 people to guarantee for you. It means that there are a lot of people who are going to turn up at every registration center. So, for example, if you are allowing 25 people at each registration center at a time, it means that if about 20 of them are bringing 2 guarantors, how many people are you seeing at the center? And you tell me you are going to make sure you observe social distance. And even quite apart from the COVID issue, you realize that the process you go through when people are when you have guarantors, it's more tedious and it takes a lot of time than when you have the card. A lot of time than when you have the card. Apart from that, you people should not be thinking that Ghana is all about Accra, Kumasi, or Tamale, or the cities. There are some constituencies in this country that you cannot get even a single commissioner of vote. In my constituency, for example, you can, if you are lucky, you can get 1 in Gaboso and not any in any part of the constituency. And if the Electoral Commission insists that that is what they are going to use, I can tell you that more than 80% of the people are going to, rely on people guaranteeing for them. And that is a challenge. So why? Why are they not listening to us? Do they have anything to hide? So now clearly, what I see, I don't see, because if you look at the time left, when are they going to do the piloting? After the piloting, they will identify the challenges, the problems. If you have not identified the challenges, you cannot tell me what time you can use to even fix those challenges in any case. You understand? So the identification of the challenges during the piloting period, then you start the main registration itself, which of course they are saying they are going to take 6 days per center. And again, they are going to do it in batches. They don't have enough equipment to do, the registration simultaneously. So they are going to do it in batches. So when are you going to finish? When you finish, when are you going to do your, the transfer of data to your centers and work on the data? When are you doing the exhibition? After the exhibition, if there are multiple of registration, when are you going to adjudicate it? Because if my name appears in the register, more than 1, my name must be taken out. If somebody is suspected not to be a Ghanaian, there must be adjudication. And when are we going to do all this? For the political parties even to get copies of the register before we even file our nominations. When? And as I speak to you now, I'm reliably informed that the machines haven't even arrived yet. And I've heard that they are calling for all the, old machines to be brought back to Accra for refurbishment. If you are going to buy new machines, why refurbishing this one? For what? So there are a lot of questions, and you can only come to a conclusion that there's that attempt to rig the impending elections. Either in that, you may give you one single reason why anybody will behave the way I have narrated. Any single reason why anybody, a neutral person, a referee, will insist that, look, whether you like it or not, we are going to do, and we are going to compile a new register without telling us a single reason that makes sense. A single one. A single reason that makes sense. All you hear is that there has been reform since 1990. Yes, I agree. If the ballot box is opaque and you tell me that we need a transparent one, it makes sense. I will agree with you. If you have a register without photos and you say, let's have a register with photos, it makes sense. I will agree with you. So before you can do the reform, there must be something wrong to reform. What is wrong? That we can reform. That there's a need, the urgent need for it to be reformed. They should tell us. So that argument of we have been reforming, it doesn't. And I have also heard the argument about the fact that, okay, even if we are going to use the old register, there are people who have turned 18 and they also must be registered, and so there will still be registration anyway. Yes, there will be registration, but less time we can take up, because I can project that at every polling station, okay, at every polling station, you cannot get more than 20% of the total number of votes, of total number of names in the register to be turning up to register at the limited registration. So even with that one, if you say 6 days, it makes sense. You understand? And so, Sena, I think that this is not a time to keep quiet. We are not angels in this country. And a lot of the countries that have seen this violence has been as a result of elections. We are not superhuman beings in this country. And so this is the time that our stakeholders must begin to talk. The clergy, everybody must begin to talk and show interest. Because if there's confusion in this country, we can't go about, because nobody will want to be taken for granted. Nobody will sit down for anybody to cheat him or her. The Constitution, in fact, this is even the Constitution or our national anthem, which our national anthem says that we should even resist the oppressor's rule. We should resist the oppressor. So if you are going to disenfranchise somebody and somebody says that I'm going to resist it, and you say the person should come to the CID, well, probably they have more information than I do, but I don't see the point. So please, and let me make one very important point.
Okay.
Sena, if you are making a law, whether you are a government or you are a parliament, and you make the law with ill motive, it will come back to catch you or to eat you up. Please, if you know you are a government and you have done so very well, you won the last election with a margin of 1 million votes, you have come, you have done very, very well, you have completed all the senior high schools that were started by the previous administration, you have completed all the hospitals in the system, you have built all the roads in this country, the economy is booming, everything is good. Please, let's go to the elections without any attempt to rig the election, so that the good people of this country will determine going forward who should lead us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable. You're watching the Matter of Our Talk shows, Alhaji and Alhaji. We are live on Pan-African Television. We are live on Ahunto 92.3 FM. We are discussing issues regarding the voters register, specifically the invitation of Mr. Mornah, who is the national chairman of the People's National Convention by the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service. We'll take a small break so that Honorable Mr. Chumbuafu can join us. Then we'll come back and continue. We'll come back. We'll hear from Dr. Adumako Kisi of the New Patriotic Party.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great son, Sajifo Dr. Nkrumah. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sajifo Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana showboy, Africa's great son, Sajifo Dr. Nkrumah. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people in.
Much for sticking and staying with us. You're live on Pan-African Television. We are live on Facebook Pan-African Television. You can watch us on Facebook. So please, if you want to, if you are unable to get to your television set, that's an option you can use. And also, you can listen to us via any of our radio partners. Awunto 92.3 FM is here in the Greater Accra region. In Tamale, we are on Diamond FM. In Ho, we are on Global FM. In Akashi, we are on Shine FM. We are on several other radio. Well, we sincerely apologize for those breaks in transmission. Just some small issues that needed to be dealt with here within the studio. But a big thank you for sticking and stay with us. Pan-African Television. We'll also be hearing from Dr. Aduma Kokisi. But just a message from, a comment from Tafa Inamra here, who says the MPP government is really using the power given to them by Ghanaians. They will not wait a minute to arrest anyone who says things they consider offensive. During President Mahama's regime, we heard people say their leaders should allow them to throw bombs and kill people. I'm sure all of you are aware of those voices who made that threat. We also heard some of them say there will be guerrilla warfare. We also heard them say if MPP is not declared winners of 2012 elections, Ghana will turn into Afghanistan. All those people who made these provocative comments were not questioned by either the police, national security, or any security agencies in the country for that matter. So we'll go to Dr. Aduma Kokisi to hear his thoughts on the issues surrounding the invitation of the PNC chairman by the Criminal Investigations Department of the Ghana Police Service. And in case you haven't heard some of the things he's been saying, there's one quote that has been attributed to him. He said, and so it is a caution. If cautions become threats, I will not run away from it. But you know, I don't know who taught the CID English in school. Because my English teacher, when he sees this statement, will know that it is a caution and that he taught me English well. And that a caution cannot represent a threat. But if they see it as a threat, then I may have to bring my English teacher to tell them that caution is different from threat. Doc.
Yeah. Sena, I was hoping you'd read John Boydu's comment. You were just about to read that.
Oh, actually, no. I was reading a comment from one of our listeners.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here. This is a brutal show. That's what I would say. Alhaji is wonderful. And most of the times there are some very powerful arguments here. And today's topic is a very good one, especially with regards to the registration and all the noise around it. Yesterday, I visited one lady, my auntie Margaret, and she has lost her voter's ID card. and she's just waiting for this new registration so that she can go and just start afresh with a new face, a new hairstyle and everything. But I don't think that is what Honorable Akundo wants to hear. Largely, let me start from way back before 2016's election. I remember the likes of many of the current MPP fronters being almost lynched when Let My Vote, was held, and policemen brutally beat up people who were making one statement, that the voters register needs to be looked at, that the voters register needs to be addressed in terms of issues that were raised prior to the 2016 election. Some of the issues largely were bordering about, one, non-Ghanaians who were on the register, and secondly, the fact that it was bloated. I have one opinion, and it's a varied opinion. I think later others will come to this, but I think that as a nation, we may benefit from doing either a new register every 12 years or every 8 years. And this is what I am actually even proposing, because I think that if we are doing a new register in NDC government, then MPP will not say anything, because it has been agreed upon that every 8 years we'll do a new register. Or if it should happen under MPP's government, NDC will not talk, because we have agreed. I mean, I think some of these things will help us as a nation, and it will take out a lot of, noise when we have all agreed that maybe it's just like your term of office, 4 years, 8 years, and that one there's no argument. Everybody adjust to say that the term of the new register is what, 8 years. So I think that should be looked at from all corners. Now, there's a huge role that any EC boss has to play, and I'll list them here. One, to test and certify all voting equipment. Okay, that is one key thing. Secondly, to check them for security, to check them for what? Accuracy, to check them for reliability and accessibility to the ordinary Ghanaian. These are the key things that any EC boss, from my boss Afarijan to date, has to do. Now, I think that when a new EC boss comes and she or he has any doubt with regards to the security of the equipment, with regards to data they have in terms of manipulation, they have every right to make a case, and they have every right to make any changes they see or deem necessary. After all, it's an independent body. Let's look at the EC from a standpoint of a bank. If there's a takeover and there's a new banker and he says that I'm going to change the networking system or the equipment my bank is using, if you are the old bank who has been taken over, where is your locus? Where is your locus? You don't. You don't. Now, I'm of the opinion that priorities have been misplaced to a large extent, in the sense that, it isn't the register that will be voting. It is the people of Ghana who will be voting come December 7th. Every political party's work should be largely on ensuring that the people who are going to vote buy into their message. If the people going to vote buy into your message, whether it is on a new paper or an old paper, as for Taboro people, they say if you are going to write an exam and it's on the chalkboard or internet, the value is the same if you have the knowledge. So I believe that what MPP has to do, what NDC has to do, what CPP has to do, what Indum's party has to do, is to work largely on who? The voters. because they are the people going to cast the ballots. I mean, and more importantly, this voter registration exercise, every party has to drive up and promote registration, not the other way around. And we cannot, by nature of not liking a new register, stop people from exercising their rights. I believe that the role of the NDC in opposition is to drive up and make sure that most of their voters who decided not to maybe vote because of poor performance in the last election will wake up and say that, okay, now that you've seen your errors, we are coming to vote for you. That is what they should be working on. That would actually help them far better than the angle in which they are going, where at the moment they clearly have no alternative solutions to our plight as a country. I believe that MPP has done well with regards to maintaining their position on the need for a new register, both in opposition times and in governance. Whilst we have another party who now seem to be at loggerheads with the EC. I remember that like 1,000 videos of the NDC educating the MPP about the independentness of the EC and the fact that they cannot interfere, even though they were in government, with the EC's workings. So what has changed? What makes the NDC think that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo has time to interfere with EC's operation, or has time or power to interfere with the EC's operations? It is better I remind them of our former president Mahama, who was interviewed with regards to then EC boss Charlotte Osei and most of the postures that she took. And Mahama reminded me, myself, a young student of politics, that Dr. Admanko Kisi, listen carefully. Although I am president of the country, the Electoral Commission is an independent body. My signatures don't go there. I do not run their daily affairs. There's a board that handles them. Even if I push for an agenda, the board is independent by law to act on their own. So I think that maybe I need to refeed the NDC party of their own wealth of knowledge, which their current presidential candidate has. If they've forgotten, they should just go back to old videos. Now, the key thing here, if they may argue on cost involved, that is one argument. I can understand them. I can appreciate it. Any new thing involves cost. On the other hand, everything comes down to an assessment of cost and benefits. I am looking at the several thousands of young people who will be gainfully engaged in doing this registration exercise. Instead of staying at home doing nothing, there's an opportunity for my sister, there's an opportunity for my brother, there's an opportunity for my cousin to be part of the EC exercise and to at least take some per diem during this 40 days of registration. Now, you are saying 6 days. The entire exercise, I believe, is a 40-day program, not 6 days. It will be 6 days per location, but the entire exercise is 40 days. And I believe yesterday I heard Dr. Sribo making a very loud quote that they anticipate that within 32 days they'll be done. However, the additional 8 or 6 days left will be to mop up and to touch up. From a strategic standpoint, this is what NDC may have to do. I'm always talking for them, advising them. All their concerns can be addressed internally. John Bodu, one thing I like him for, he stated this, that if any political party wants to depend on the EC, they'll lose their election. So as MPP, although we are in governance and we are in power, we are not dependent on the EC. We will not. If you go to a match depending on your referee, you'll be making a mistake. The players should know how to play very well. So what we are doing as a party is, as he rightly said, everybody has strongholds. Everybody has their Floridas, let me put it that way. Everybody has their Californias, let me put it that way. But what is important is that as of today, all of our agents who will be talking to people, canvassing them to go and register, are on the ground doing that. To make sure that once the whistle is blown, we make sure those who are eligible to go and register gets there to be registered. I'm trying to see how my elderly people can go and register, how we can probably provide them with some snack, some choco milo or something like that, and then bread. That is what I'm looking at. And the same thing should be done in other regions. I don't know all the NDC strongholds, except for maybe Dwaboso, I don't know. And this time, Crown Dwaboso is shaking for somebody. But what I think is important for the Ghanaian people is that, listen, one, we change our location severally. There's so many students who have finished KNUST who are back in Accra. They don't want to go and vote there. Unfortunately, the need to change your your location for voting has become a bit cumbersome. It is almost as equal as just doing a new one. And as such, I'm happy many students who are in Legon or who were in Legon several years ago and always have to go to Legon to vote can now be wherever they are stationed to register afresh. And Ghana, with our rental situation, many people keep changing where they live. One time he was at Taifa, secondly he's at who knows where. And this is going to create an opportunity for people to re-register largely where they now reside. And there's a huge population we are looking at. And more importantly, I think that this is going to help us as a nation. This new re-registration exercise is going to excite people about the December elections. And many of the concerns with regards to COVID are well placed. However, this is needful. The necessary precautions will be taken. And more importantly, I think that if we are so concerned about COVID in relation to the new registration, then that means that since COVID has come to stay, then maybe we should skip the entire elections December 7th and then call it off and have as it were presidency continuation if that is what the NDC would like. But I think that we are all pushing for a December election, and once we are pushing for a December election, we should all be very well active and excited about the roadmap to the election. The other thing I've been disappointed about is the opposition's consistent boycotts. Boycotting is important in politics. However, when you do it consistently, then it shows that you are being lazy as an opposition party. I believe that not to be at the table to talk for so many years, and now the privilege has been granted and others are not partaking of that privilege. I believe that they will serve Ghanaians better by being engaged in the process, being there, making their statement fully known. What's funny is that if you're outside court, you can say so many interesting things. But when you're in court and you have sworn your oath and you're making your case, you'll be very careful. And I believe that because they contradict themselves so much, they would rather be outside the meeting and talk and make statements of things that have not been said during the meetings. With regards to registration and the population, if you're thinking about 17 million, and that is what I think the AC is projecting, 17 million. And Honorable Akando said one wonderful thing. He said there are about 2 million holders of passports in this country. Let me do him a favor. Let me halve that to 1 million. If 1 million people can guarantee for 10, what are we looking at? What are we looking at? That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. Now, in addition to that, we've even given also the Ghana card. Today, I'm almost like a PRO for EC. You've been given the Ghana card. How many people were registered with the Ghana card? Several thousands of people. Those thousands of people guaranteeing for 10 people each. How many? We've gone overboard in terms of the voter population. In terms of the voter population, we've gone overboard. In addition to that, what makes the deal even more sweet is the fact that after you've been guaranteed for by somebody who's a passport holder or a Ghana card holder, you are at liberty yourself to also guarantee for 10 more people. It's almost like clockwork. You know, I guarantee for 10, those 10 can then guarantee for another 10, even though they don't have a passport. So where are our qualms? And there's one wonderful thing. Registration is open till close to December. It doesn't end when this 40-day, tough exercise is over. Anybody in Ghana, and let me repeat this carefully, if by November ending you are a qualified, eligible voter and you are not on the register, you are at liberty to go and get registered. It will not end by this exercise. So let's keep that also in mind. There's no law barring you. Yes, it will be open. It might not be, this big open exercise, but you are eligible. And this is known by everybody, that your registration onto the voter book, or registering to vote, does not end prior to the D-Day of election. There's a window. In some countries, it's 2 weeks to the election. In Ghana, I believe it's even almost about a week to election. So you are open to go. After this exercise, it's not closed though. After this exercise, we're talking about June, July. So you have the entire of August, you have the entire of September, you have the entire of October to go and get registered if you are missed in this. And I believe that the NDC party will do Ghana a favor. Let this run through. If we finish and you think your strongholds, people who have not been registered, make the case. Make the case. No. After the registration exercise, after all, it is 30, 40 days, which means by the end of July or first week August, it's over. And between August and what do you call it, December, you can make your case that in the old register, this was the number of people, that you anticipated in your strongholds. And clearly, one thing that has been very interesting is that in the current voter register, there are places where the voter population is higher than the actual population in that town. And that seems to be very, very confusing. In typical terms, if there's an area where there's 100,000 people living there, you may have close to 45% being registered to vote. But when you have the reverse, where you have over 145% registered to vote, when the actual percentage of people living there are fewer, then it stands to question the integrity, the credibility of the register. So I believe that, in summary, the EC boss has every right to make any adjustments, any needed adjustments. They are an independent entity. They are the referee, and they play a significant role. However, the most important thing are the people who are going to vote for us, not the register. The most important. If we convince the people of our good works or our alternative solutions, then we can, really win the election. It has nothing to do with whether the names are on a new or old register truly. However, I believe in one thing, and I've loved the MPP for that. We've held that ground, that the current existing register is not credible enough. And it's even commendable that a party that wins with a non-credible register is still fighting and pushing for a new one. I mean, because he's won with it already, and he's still making the case. He has not changed his case. He hasn't. And I think we should commend our government or our party for that. Okay. We've held on to this for a while. In end, I believe that when we talk in public as party officials, we need to be very careful. We need to use candor. And as much as I like our good friend Bernard, I think that it is bad to incite people. And you can do this anyhow. But let us be very mindful of our words, because a peaceful nation is good for any political party. But when your nation is in chaos, nothing goes well for any political party. So I'll beg all of us in our oration on this topic, be it NDC, be it MPP, we need to watch our words carefully and make sure that whatever we put out there will not incite people to go and do the wrong thing. Any of these EC people going to work are young people who just want something to at least eat, some small stipend, some small money to go home to eat. And we should not incite people against our ordinary Ghanaians who are there to simply help with this registration exercise. I would love to see Bernard sharing some food when this exercise is going on for the EC employees. I'd love to see him encourage them to do their service to Ghana, because it is truly service to the nation and service to our citizens in the country. And to end it all, let's promote voter registration. Let's not kill it. Let's promote it and encourage more people to participate.
Okay.
And this goes to all the parties, more importantly, our MPP supporters. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doc. Dr. Aduma Kukisi is seeking to be the MPP parliamentary candidate for Anyaso Utum. Let me read a couple of messages. A big thank you to our followers on Facebook, very dedicated, committed, and make some wonderful contributions to the show. Let me read a couple of the messages on that page. Justice Kmonyu says, how do we determine the age of prospective registrants who don't have either of the required documents listed by the EC without birth certificate? It is very sad that we have UG past lecturer at the EC part of this decision. Has he sold his conscience instead of protecting his integrity? Something definitely is wrong. King Pharaoh, King Kasua says, and I listened to an audio in which the president says the current register is not credible and not fit for purpose. If so, then why did he accept the 2016 results that made him president? Why didn't he initiate a process at the Supreme Court to nullify the elections like he attempted to do with the 2012 results? But I will say Otum for the convener of Crossfire Ghana says, people whose ancestry has no roots in the UK are holding British passports and voting in the UK and Ghana. That is right. Yes, siblings who have one of their parents from Ghana, including their grand ancestry, traced to Ghana and residing in Togo, are criminals to be on Ghana's register. Is it tribalism? That is his question. Habib Bantos is saying, good morning, Sena, and your wonderful panelists. The resistant forces on. I stand with Chairman Bernard Mornah. No amount of intimidation can gag with the resistance army. We shall resist the EC and save lives. The dark days in the history of Ghana is back. Culture of silence is back. No freedom of speech. What is worrying most is the Ghana police, who has turned into what they call zombies by the government to harass innocent and ordinary Ghanaians. Together, let's vote massively for JDM. He ends. Musa Batua finally says, and essentially what Chairman Bernard Mornah purported to have said has been said by CDD, Imani, and many people. In any case, who is a complainant? I hope it's not an Northern, because that's the strategy of the MPP. It goes ahead to say that Polafoka and Kobna, a Japan issue, is a case study. In fact, EC has not been classified as essential service, but Dr. Sribo was on record to have said that EC is exempted from the President Directive on the ban against mass gathering. So are they operating from a different planet? Jim Mensah-led EC is a threat to our democracy. And that is from Musa Abata. Thank you for your contributions on Facebook. Mr. Shumbravo.
Thank you very much, Sena. And thank you once again for inviting me to this program. And let me just say that I want to commend you and your team In my hometown, we say so. Obi didn't say she wapampema na orisha wapomudin in English. Somebody strikes you on top of the head, you may be strengthening your neck. One of the reasons why Radio Gold was shut down was because of Alhaji and Alhaji. Unfortunately, look at what has happened. Prior to that, putting Alhaji and Alhaji on television was not much of a priority. But today the program is growing. Facebook following huge, television following huge, and I also have to thank my big brother Kwesi Pratt for that. So well done to all of you guys. Let me begin this submission by stating unequivocally, and I want you to put the camera on me properly, that I stand very, very, very strongly with Kwesi Pratt. In fact, with Bernard Mornah. I stand so strongly with him that on Tuesday I'll be accompanying him to the police station. You see, I want to conduct an exercise before I go into my submission. And let me just say that this, and I'm paraphrasing. Afi 2020 abatui. We no ma ya omadwin se ombe hunhun. Yankopon bo wiase no mo bia mienu. Dia ni wo tre. Enti send this year we need elections here. Militants on our side will enter the fray, because all die, we die. You know why I can't be arrested for what I just said? You know why no policeman would dare call me for what I just said, even if they go and report to me? You know why? I don't want to see. So into me for You see, when it comes to making irresponsible statements, political statements that are irresponsible, there are some people who are right up there on the totem pole. And it would appear that even those statements they made has carried them into higher political office. And so those people who subsequently made those statements, even if Bernard indeed made any statement that would be deemed irresponsible, even if he made it, you will be learning from people who have become very successful since they made those statements. But today, the police are suddenly calling anybody. And you know, what simply happens is that some MPP official or communicator must sit on radio and demand the arrest of somebody who has made a supposed statement, and the police call the person. The former spokesperson of the AFRC, Major Osahini Boachijan, made a statement. The MPP National Youth Organizer sat on radio, demanded his arrest. And police from Accra, went to his village in Drobo to go and arrest him. But what did he say? That we haven't heard before. We have been in this country where leaders of political parties have used the anatomy of men to describe political power. What lewd and lascivious language is that? Where are those people today? Did anybody call them? Did anybody call them? We have been in this country when people have stood in a political rally and called for bombs. People to be bombed. It happened in Achimota here. We know the people who did it. Today, they are occupying cushy chief executive positions. Some of them are ministers. Just a few days ago, we heard one of the deputy general secretaries of the MPP promise the NDC people that we will be beaten. What happened? Has he been God? So if Bernard Mornah says that we will resist and that people will be beaten, or you know, I shudder to understand where we are going in this country. The people who claim to be the doyens of free speech, I repeal the law on criminal libel, and yet I have imposed the imposition of restrictions bill. I repeal the law on criminal libel. Democracy advocate, and yet I have shut down the radio stations I don't like, and claimed that I didn't shut it down. How can anybody, even my 6-year-old Rahim, believe that a minister of state can just shut down a radio station? Well, I can't do. When you were a minister, when ministers take decision, doesn't it come to cabinet? They don't want pivotal decisions like that are not discussed in cabinet.
But even emanate from the cabinet before.
I mean, how is that possible? But today we are there. And you know, most importantly, the people who should speak because of ethnocentrism, because of tribalism, because of an elitist quotient in this country, they are not speaking. But you see, you don't have to be a good student of history, nor a good student of theology, or a good student of anything to understand that political power is transient. In fact, everything is transient. Life itself is transient. And one day, let us just assume that this president lives till he's 120. And he's president for the next 50 years. On the day after the 50th year, he will go. And when he goes, somebody else will come. And on that day, let me not see you talking about any propriety. You see, like I've always said, my brother, Uncle Kwesi, and I are some of the few communist lefts on this planet. We agree on almost everything. The only thing he doesn't agree on me with is idiocy for idiocy, which keeps everybody safe. One day, somebody will come and say that an MPP government did this, and we will replicate it. We will do the same to you. Look, Dr. Admakisi, you're a medical doctor, and a fine one at that, I hear. You should be very concerned about what your government is attempting to do with this register. When I was coming to the studio, I just read a news article that 100 people congregated. This is just 5 days ago in Germany, 100 people congregated at a church. They all have coronavirus today. You should be concerned because you know as a medical professional that this virus is real. You know that when the crap really hits the fan in this country, people will die. And in most places, including even where you are trying to become MP, in Accra, people will die and we will not even know what killed them, because many of them will die of a disease that has been unidentified. Do you honestly believe that it is only 7,700 people who have coronavirus in this country? Do you believe that? Do you honestly believe that the numbers, and I am in no way saying that somebody is even hiding figures. I'm just telling you that by the very nature and the very constitution of our society in this country, there are thousands more people who have the disease and people don't know. But what you people want is to congregate people. You are saying that you take safety precautions. There will be 25 people in the place in the queue. What happens outside? Have you thought of that? What happens outside? Doc, you are a medical professional. What happens outside? You, the medical professionals, are the very people who tell us that somebody can contract coronavirus today, get tested today, we don't know the results, he goes home, and by tomorrow he has given it to 10 other people. So somebody who has contracted coronavirus comes to register. The person has come to register and he stands outside in Akando's village where there's hardly any doctor. He gives it to 10 or so people. By the time he finishes registering, which will be one full day because they are standing in queues, they are standing outside, mailing outside, he has given it, over 100 people have it. What are you people doing? What are you people? What do you think you are doing? And then you are saying that NDC should go to court. Look, we have gone to court. And the last Chief Justice of this country said, and I'm quoting here, that the only true test of a person's citizenship is the national voter identification. Something that this electoral commission has inexplicably removed from the requirements to have a new voter's ID. So, Susuampa said, you people do not have any devilish intentions. And you want to make this exercise seamless. Why is it that anybody who has exhibited and exercised that true test of citizenship and already has a national voter's ID card cannot simply replace it if it is at all to avoid this disease that is going on for expediency? During the Abu Ramadan case, that is what then Chief Justice Georgina Wood said. And for me, it is pivotal to this issue. Who decided that the Electoral Commission should say only passports and national identification authority cards that have not been issued? Many people do not have it. Then came COVID-19. COVID-19 ensured that for over 2.5 months, the so-called register that the NIA, the EC wanted to promulgate didn't happen, hasn't happened. As we speak now, it is the worst kept secret in this country that the BVRs are not in. They haven't been manufactured because of COVID-19. You are using the old BVRs to train the registration agents. So what are you people doing? What are you doing? The so-called director of elections of the EC is interviewed on TV and he falls asleep. He actually fell asleep or died. Are you people serious? What are you doing? What are you doing, Dr. Adumaku Kisi? What are you people doing to this country? Is it that you don't care? Or is it that you are too inane to care? Have you people lost your feeling? Never mind what else you seem to have lost. Have you lost your compassion and your empathy for the people of this country? Listen, I have been around politics for a very long time. You can ask my big brother here. 25 years since I got my NDC party card. 25 years. So I know about registering people. Nobody can convince me that we are going to have a register. And you made an allusion that was false. I'm assuming that you don't know. So, and I'm telling you, it is categorically false. You are not going to be able to register up till November. That is the reason why the registration period closes. And they have a provisional register. And they are going to exhibit the register. You can't do that. Some of us have been advocating that, and in fact, Kwesi has been in the lead of this thing, that we have to come to a point where we stop this business of wholesale. We are registering people, we are removing cards, we are registering people. Anybody who turns a certain age should be able to go to a registration center at your local EC place and just register. And it goes on. Dr. Adumaku Kisi, as we speak now, every voter in this country, at least anybody who voted in the 2016 election, has their biodata on file. Your face, your fingerprints are on a database. Why are you seeking to throw it away, albeit to start a new one? Because somebody wants to spend 1.8 billion cedis of money we don't have. 3 weeks into COVID-19, our economy collapsed. This government is borrowing money. They are printing money. They are begging for gifts. They have started a fund for which even entities that you know, like NHIA, which don't pay providers, are being forced to pay into. You see, it's a mess. It's a complete mess. It's a 4-star mess. You see, it's a mess. You people are systematically bringing this country to a grinding halt. And as for resistance and people resisting oppression, are you watching CNN? Are you watching CNN? You see what has happened from one person being murdered by a policeman. You see what has happened in the United States? You see what's going on? So don't let what Bernard Mornah said pass through here and get out of here, or pass through here and here. If you watch CNN today for just 10 minutes, you will understand what Bernard Mornah is saying. And the very people, and one of them is sitting here, who stood up for this country, some of them went to jail. Like my big brother Kwesi says, he's been involved in 1,000 demonstrations, including Kumi Preku. You know what that means? Kill me today. Yes, kill me. Because you are oppressing me. Kill me. And one of the so-called architects of Kumi Preku is today the president of Ghana, Meboa. So, today, people can be the oppressed And tomorrow they will be the boss in charge. Remember that. We live in a country where people pretend like they don't know our very painful history. We live in a country where today people who should know better behave like they are oblivious to the suffering of the people in this country. You are spending 1.8 billion on a totally frivolous and needless register when every corner you turn in this country there's a pothole. Mosquitoes are now growing bigger. They seem to have gotten new genes. They are growing bigger. They bite. Their bites are more painful than it used to be when we were kids. We are not doing anything about it. Look at our land tenure system. Look at our land tenure system. You have arrears from free SHS you haven't paid. And yet, you are going to do a frivolous new register because some people must make money to buy new SUVs, Land Cruisers to lord over us. But let me tell you what, when the crap hits the fan, you will pack your SUV, your Land Cruiser, and you will walk. Just because you want to make sure you are not identified. And let me tell you a personal experience that I had as a boy in 1979 when the AFRC came into power. Somebody I know, whose name I will not mention, the person is quite elderly today, was told by some soldiers that the soldiers were going to come to his house that night. That they had information. At that time, things were so fluid that your driver can report you to Gonda Barracks and you are in trouble. Your maid servant can report you for having 10 pieces of cloth in your room, you are in trouble. So this gentleman got inside info, and obviously, as it always is, some people will pass by and come and tell you that the people are coming tonight, so if I were you, I would escape. So this guy put all the things he had in his car, cloth. At that time, having 2 or 3 bottles of whiskey was a problem. Some of you may not be old enough to know. Put all of it in a pickup and drove around town the whole night. The soldiers came. They came into the house, came and said the house, didn't find anything. A couple of days later, after hiding the pickup in some farm somewhere, came back and came to put the things out. You see, this country is a country that has lived with a lot of pain, a lot of precedent pain. And we, the current generation, those of us who are even assigned with a bit of intellect and a bit of the knowledge of the pain of this country, must be advising ourselves so that the young people of this country do not turn on us. I always say this thing. We have deprived young people of this country of too much. One fine day, they are going to get really upset. That is, if they are not upset already. Doc, how difficult was it for you to get into medical school?
Very difficult.
That degree of difficulty today, given the same results you had, will anybody who got your results get into medical school? When I was a student, you could get 4 C's at A level and be a doctor. Today, you need to get all A's and pass an interview before you can get into medical school. Because we have made it impossible for our young people to aspire. And when you take 1.8 billion cedis to do a new register that we don't need, so that people can eat and steal, so that you can disenfranchise ethnic minorities, so that people in NDC strongholds will not vote because Ewes are Togolese, because Ketu South does not have a right to have 149,000 voters, because there are no human beings in Hohoi. Should I go on? Charlie, let me stop.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Kojo Chumbuafo. Let me just read a message before I go to Mr. Pratt. This one is coming from Haji Akumapa, who says, please ask the NPP man, if someone registers today, we all know the card is not valid until the final register is ready. So on what grounds is that person whose card is not yet valid going to validate my card as a guarantor? That's coming from Haji. Davi Sena says, please tell the doctor to revise his notes and position. NDC isn't against a new voters register. We are against disenfranchising the people by not accepting the existing voters card as ID. The NDC is also against the timing of the exercise when COVID-19 is here with the increasing rates of community infection. We also say the time allotted for the registration is too short. In fact, let the NPP know that Mahama will win the next elections no matter what they do. And let me read one from Ambassador Sam Piale. Then I'll go to Mr. Pratt. Okay. He says, Dr. Admakisi, are you saying that after a bank takeover, all customers queue to register for new bank account numbers? If so, tell me one bank you know that has done that. Did you say that after every 12 years or a change in government, we should compile a new register? What a retrogressive idea. I've always believed that you have the capacities to suggest that in the near future, we should, as a country, look forward to establishing a single all-purpose national identity card. Oh, how I wish young people should have been working in district factories or in their own business rather than being asked to be happy with by-day EC registration jobs. Dr. Admako, don't you feel bad that my citizenship will be determined by a passport and NIA ECOWAS card? Voting is a process, starting with registration. Indeed, we have a president and MPs who were elected with a register which is not credible. This indeed is a comedy of errors and falsehood. Mr. Pratt.
First of all, I want to be exceedingly fair to my brother here, Dr. Admaku Kisi. I'm really struggling to be fair, to him. And I've told myself that the only way I can be very fair to him is to assume that he does not believe what he has said on this show. Because if I assume that he really believes what he has said on this show, then this country has a huge problem. You understand? And I'll come to that later in my submission. The recklessness of the Electoral Commission is frightening. And that recklessness would have consequences for every and any Ghanaian. Now, if you add that level of recklessness to the incompetence which is being displayed, it is shocking and it is frightening. Sena, this is an electoral commission which cannot write a simple 4-paragraph letter of invitation. Letter of invitation. The last IPAC meeting, I don't know if you have seen the letter inviting the political parties to the IPAC meeting. The date was wrong. The year was wrong. The time was wrong. They came back and said, oh, it was an error. You have an electoral commission which cannot do simple proofreading, not of an entire newspaper, but of a one-page letter. And you think this electoral commission is capable of compiling a new voters register with 17 million names on it? God save this country. One-page letter. One page, not two. They cannot do. The mistakes in a one-page letter is shocking. And yet, we think that we can entrust them to compile a voters register with 17 million names on it. let's get serious. I have never seen this level of incompetence in any state institutions. And I worked in the civil service. I worked in the public service. I have worked, my brother, for more than 50 years. I've been working for more than 50 years. And I've never come across this level of crass incompetence. You understand? And yet, we think that giving 5 months to an election, a little over 5 months to an election, we can entrust this incompetent organization to compile a voters register for a crucial election like the 2020 elections. I don't believe it. I've heard that the Electoral Commission is the agency which actually reported Bernard Mornah to the police. If that is the case, that would add to their level of recklessness, extreme recklessness. Recklessness which has never been surpassed in the history of elections in Ghana. Now, why do I say this? If you are arresting people for saying that they will resist what is unconstitutional and what is wrong, do you know the number of people who end up arresting? Simply, any and everybody who sings the national anthem should be arrested. Because the national anthem is clear. Our national anthem is clear. Our national anthem enjoins us to resist oppressors' rule. So all the little children who sing the national anthem on a daily basis, we are going to arrest all of them? Are you going to arrest the president and all his ministers who at every function stand in salutation to the national anthem, which calls for resistance? How crazy can we be? Resistance today is a crime. And we have been resisting and resisting all these years. And all the people who have been resisting with, a great number of them are in this government. And today, calling for resistance has become a crime. I don't believe it. What happened to us? Why are we closing the space for free expression? I would not talk the way Bernard Mornah spoke. You know why? Because I know the people we are dealing with. And I don't want to give them any chance to do what they are likely to do and what they have been doing all these years. You understand? So I would not talk the way Bernard Mornah spoke. But I would defend him to the hilt. I would defend him to the hilt because all of us have been advocates against the criminalization of speech. We were all in this country when a member of parliament actually called for the bashing of heads and so on. You remember? And he was arrested. What was the court decision? The court's decision was that even though his speech was incendiary and so on, he didn't have the capacity to act on what he was saying. Show me the capacity that Bernard Mornah has to act on what he was saying. Let's be real. What is this? What are we doing to ourselves? You want to hear those who have made inflammatory speeches? Go to the archives. And when I talk about the archives, I'm not talking about archives which are 15 years old. I'm talking about archives which are only 2 weeks old. And listen to the kind of statements that people have made. The Deputy General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party says that people will be beaten, they will be beaten. And then he adds that what happened in Ayawaso West Wuogon will be child's play. What happened in Ayawaso West Wuogon? The last time I went to that constituency for the observance of the anniversary of the incident, I saw people who still could not walk, whose limbs have been destroyed. I saw people still in pain. People were shot. But you know why we are in this situation? We are in this situation because we, the people of Ghana, are not angry enough. If we, the people of Ghana, were angry enough, some of these things would not happen. Because Ayawaso West Rogon happened, and that was the end. The people who shot people, who disabled people, the people who committed those criminal acts have not been made to face justice. And some of them, many of them, or all of them, are still working in the national security apparatus. If you had been angry enough and demanded justice, if you had been angry enough and ensured that they are removed from the security apparatus, nobody today would dare look us in the face and tell us that what happened in Ayawaso West Rogon will be child's play and that they will revisit it upon us. Because they did it and there were no consequences. Because they did it and were not angry enough. That is where we are, where we are. I'm disgusted by the developments in our country. I am totally and completely disgusted by what is happening in our country today. You know, when we speak in the public space, I think we ought to be exceedingly careful. And we ought to be exceedingly careful because today, those of us who are sitting on this set, we are not sitting on this set because we are the most intelligent people in Ghana. We are not. We are not the most knowledgeable people in this country. We happen to be sitting on this set because we are privileged. That's the only reason. And we should keep that at the back of our minds all the time. Some of the people who listen to us are far more intelligent and discerning than us. The only thing we have which they don't have is our privilege. And if we are reminded about this, when we begin to speak in public, we'll be careful about what we say. We are going to spend billions of cedis to compile a voters register. And one of the justifications for it is that some beautiful lady somewhere wants to make sure that her card is changed so that her new hairdo will show on the card. So that she can have a beautiful makeup which will reflect on her new card. My goodness. My goodness, my Job. Good reason for having a new voters register. And then we are told that, look, somebody has lost his voter ID card. So what? There are procedures for acquiring new voters ID cards if you get your ID cards lost. In any case, even without the card, if you go to the polling station, you can be verified. What they verify are your fingerprints. Your number, that's all. And in fact, we have a voter ID card which has your photograph on it. So that is no good reason. In fact, it's a horrible reason for compiling a new voters register. It's a very horrible reason. And many other horrible reasons have been given. My brother, listen. The compilation of a voters register, what you're trying to validate are two things. One, your citizenship, and your age. Two things. Because the laws of Ghana say that you cannot vote in an election if you are not a Ghanaian and if you are not 18 years and above. So there are two key ingredients: nationality and age. Mm-hmm. How do you validate your age? Exactly. It's a key ingredient. The law makes it a key ingredient. And yet, you have officials who have decided that the only document which can validate your age should be excluded from the registration exercise. Very sensible officials, brilliant officials, competent officials. Can you believe this? Then it comes to nationality, and then they say that the only way you can validate your nationality is by getting a passport and a national ID card. And then you ask them, why not the birth certificate? Say, oh, as for birth certificates, we can't trust it. Because some of it is forged. My brother, how many times haven't we heard and read of non-Ghanaians possessing Ghanaian passports? How many times haven't we read and heard of fraudulent acquisition of Ghanaian passports? During the NIA exercise, I'm sure all of you heard of the arrest of agents of the authority who were engaged in hanky-panky maneuvers. You all heard it. You all heard of foreigners who had been arrested because they were engaged in hanky-panky maneuvers and so on. So if for that reason you cannot use a birth certificate, for the same reason you cannot use a national identity card. Because they are all Dukadaya. They are all the same. You understand? In any case, in obtaining a passport, the key document you present is a birth certificate. Now, I've heard some people talk about you need to have some people to guarantee and so on. They don't know what they're talking about. When you apply for a Ghanaian passport, you need two guarantors and a witness. Okay? The witness's role in that whole exercise is to attest to the evidence on the form you have filled. That's all. That witness is not attesting to anything beyond the fact that you observed the guarantors and so on sign your document. The guarantors are not guaranteeing your nationality. What the guarantors are doing is that they are saying that in case you are repatriated from another country, they will bear the cost of repatriation. Go and check. Read the passport form. The only proof of your nationality is your birth certificate. So, we don't like the birth certificate, we want a passport, and yet the only way to get a passport is to present a birth certificate. Very logical, very sensible. Unbelievable. This is what we are doing. I mean, it's incredible what we are doing. Now look, last week, I passed in front of the chairman of the Electoral Commission's house in the morning, around about 7 a.m. And I was shocked to see a multitude of heavily armed policemen in front of her house. And I saw an armored vehicle. And I said, my goodness, what is happening here? You don't see that number of policemen and armored vehicles and so on in front of the House of the Chief Justice or the Speaker of Parliament or anybody. What is happening? Why is the chairperson of the Electoral Commission so frightened and so on? On the day of the IPAC meeting, those of us who saw the photographs at the place began to wonder, what are we getting into? An Afghanistan situation? Or an Idlib situation? What are we getting into? The number of armored vehicles at the Electoral Commission. Now, all of these are manifestations of what Bernard Mornah said. If the state feels so frightened that the chairperson of the Electoral Commission has to be protected by armored vehicles, and the commission itself, when it's meeting party leaders who are friends, all the party leaders are friends, they know themselves, they call themselves by first names and so on, the state has to deploy armored vehicles, then the chaos has already arrived. The chaos Bernard Mornah spoke about has already arrived. Now, my brother, I listened to a key member of the New Patriotic Party. I listened to Mr. McMenu. You understand? And Mr. McMenu is the chairperson of the campaign committee of the New Patriotic Party. And Mr. McMenu is clear. What does Mr. McMenu say? He says, with or without a new register, the New Patriotic Party will win the next election cleanly. It will win free and fair elections on December 7th, 2020, with or without a new register. This is Mr. Peter McMenu. Now, if this is what Mr. Peter McMenu is telling us, why are you wasting our time with this new register business? If it is possible to organize free and fair elections with the old register, why the stampede to create a new register? And I'm not the one saying it. It is not my brother Chumboafu who is saying it. Mr. Peter McMenu. You understand? So what is the fuss and so on? And I believe him. I believe him that it is possible to organize clean elections in this country with the old register. Now, my brother, we are being told that this register is bloated, and that because this register is bloated, we need to compile a new one. What does that mean? If you want to vote in this country, you have to go and put your 10 fingers on a machine. The people whose names have bloated the register, if they are dead and buried, who is going to dig up dead bodies, rotting dead bodies, not fresh dead bodies, or rotting dead bodies, and use the fingerprints of rotting dead bodies to vote an election? Does it make sense? In any case, where in the world, Cosmokaya or Greenland, do you have a register which is not bloated? If you compile a voters register today, by tomorrow morning, that register will be bloated because some people will die. You understand? So that whole argument does not make any sense at all. It simply doesn't make any sense at all. As we sit in the studio right now, we are all waiting for the president's address, hopefully tomorrow, to tell us what the state of affairs would be, whether the restrictions would be lifted or not lifted, and so on. I don't know. Does the Electoral Commission know what the president is going to say tomorrow? And if they know what the president is going to say tomorrow, then we have a huge problem. You understand? If they have been taken into confidence, I don't think they have. But if they have been taken into confidence and told what the president is going to say tomorrow about the restrictions and so on, then we have a huge problem. You understand? So I want to believe that they have not been told. On what basis are they making their calculation, fixing dates and so on? On what basis? Because tomorrow, for all practical and theoretical reasons, it is possible for the president to come and extend the extensions, which will throw all their plans out of gear. Why can't they wait for 1 week to listen to the president before they make their decisions? In any case, even if the president came tomorrow and told us that he's lifting all the restrictions, people can go to church, people can congregate and so on, what is the guarantee that 3 days later he would not change his mind? It has happened in France. It has happened in other countries. France decided to lift the restrictions on schools. In less than 1 week, they had to come back and reimpose those restrictions because they saw the level of new infections in schools. So we can make the same mistake here. And so we are living in very uncertain times. You understand? I think it was Chumbuafu or my brother Akando who was telling us about what happened in the churches. They lifted the restrictions on churches. One church service, 100 people got infected.
Including the preacher.
Oh, so you know that? So you know that? So it is not as easy and simple as that. In any case, they the professionals, and when I say they the professionals, I mean medical practitioners like Dr. my brother here, Adumaku, you know.
Easy.
They are telling us that if you look at the history of all pandemics, there has always been a second wave. There has always been a second wave. And then the second wave has been more devastating than the first wave. And I've seen some of the graphs and so on, and it frightens me to bits. And indeed, the prediction is that the second wave is going to come in September. So why are we in a hurry to embrace death? Why are we in a hurry to embrace catastrophe? Why are we in a hurry to embrace catastrophe? When all of you, the scientists, the people who know better than ordinary journalists like me and so on, know that at least, it is likely that we are going to have a second wave, which will be far more devastating than the first wave. Why are you not speaking out? Why are you not advising people who are playing tango with our lives? I can't believe it. Now, my brother, the first plan that the Electoral Commission put before Parliament, and there's a member of Parliament here, was that they were going to start this registration exercise in April. Okay? And that if they started this registration exercise in April, the register will be fully completed by November. That's what they put forward. I didn't put that program forward for them. Now, they are telling us that the exercise, of course, has not started. So it didn't start in April. It didn't start in May. It's going to start in the last week of June.
Maybe.
So when will the register be ready? By their own projection, if they start in April, the register will be ready in November. They are starting 3 months late. The election is on December 7th. The president has assured us that he will not stay in office 24 hours longer than his mandate. When will this register be ready? When will this register be ready? Now, you know something? Sena, if this exercise had been carried out in April, April is not the rainy season. So you have to factor that also in. We are now going to start in June at the peak of the rainy season. 2 days ago, those of us in Accra saw the torrential downpour. How are you going to register if what happened 2 days ago happens again? On a registration day, what is going to happen? So, look, public officials should begin to think. They should begin to think. Thinking is not that difficult. Everybody can think small. Even me, I can think small. So they should begin to think and think. And if they thought just a little, we would not be in this mess. This is clear mess. Messy. And then you know something? Yesterday, I had a top official arguing that, oh, this is not the first time we are going to have a new register. That every election we have a new register. And he says every election we have a new register because you do limited registration. You add some new names to it and so on. There's a substantial difference between reviewing a register, adding on names to an existing register, and throwing the register away and compiling a new one. There's a substantial difference in that. When you do limited registration or you review the register, you are not compiling a new voters register. Now, Sena, when did we first know that we will have elections on December 7, 2020? We got to know that we will have elections on December 7, 2020 in 1992. That's when we got to know that we're going to have this election on December 7, 2020. More than 25 years ago, we knew that we're going to have elections on December 7, 2020. Okay? So why the rush? You have known for more than 25 years that you're going to have elections. And then you sit down, 5 months to an election, you are pushing everything down, you are behaving like an elephant in a china shop and so on, smashing everything and so on, in order to have a register. What kind of a people are we? What kind of a people are we? It's unbelievable. As if this is something new. In any case, I am sure that all of us on this set and the vast majority of people listening to us today have all joined in the advocacy for a single card for everything. All of us came up and said, look, it doesn't make sense to have one card for social security and to have a different card for driver's license, to have a different card for elections, to have a different card for national health and so on. And that it is most prudent to have one card which you can use for everything. All of us have said that. If there's anybody who hasn't said that here, show your hand. We have all said that before. Why haven't we done it? Those who are insisting on a new voter's ID card knew some time ago, indeed, you can say that for the New Patriotic Party and its leaders, they've been insisting on a new voter's card for close to 8 years. Okay? For close to 8 years. So if you knew that you were going to do a new voters register, why did you spend substantial amounts of money to correct that register or to improve it only to throw it away? Because you have been doing limited registration exercises. The purpose of a limited registration exercise is to improve the register. Is to make sure that those who attain the age of 18 can vote and so on. So we spend money to improve the register only to throw it away. Where is the common sense? Common sense, where is it? Common sense too we don't have. Hey, common sense too we don't have. If you answer, correct. Common sense too, my brother, we don't have. We prepared a register, spend money on a register only to throw that register away. You understand? Now, I've heard some people say, oh, former President Mahama, he should not be taken serious at all. They say that all the time. Why shouldn't he be taken serious? Because at the time when the new Patriotic Party was forcing for a new register and so on, he came up and said that the Electoral Commission has some independence and should be respected, it should be allowed to do its work and so on. So on the basis of that, they said that we shouldn't take him serious. What were they saying also at the time? They said we should take them serious. What were they saying? Were they not the same people who at the time were saying that even as the laws of Ghana gave the sitting president the authority to appoint the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, because of the nature of our elections and so on, he should go into broad consultations to determine who the chairperson of the Electoral Commission should be? Did they do that when they were appointing chairperson of the Electoral Commission? Mm-hmm. The things they said then, are they the things they're saying today? Today, they are not saying that the powers of the commission are not unfettered. They are saying that the commission is independent, that we should respect the powers of the constitution, that only the commission can compile voters register and so on. And now if you don't agree, go to court. Are they being consistent themselves? They say those who demand what? Equity. They need to come with clean hands. You can't go and dip your 10 fingers into the gutter and come to us demanding equity. You can't do that. So they have to remember that there is a flip side to everything. Yes, they can criticize former President John Mahama, but in criticizing former President John Mahama, they may be pointing their forefinger at him, but the rest of the fingers are pointed at them. What is this? My brother, and listen to me very carefully. Any rush to impose a new voters register on this country can only lead to chaos. Significant chaos. And they must watch it. Look, we need to build consensus on this matter. You understand? I don't want to see this as an NPP versus NDC matter. The rights of citizens is not an NDC-NPP matter. It goes beyond NDC, goes beyond NPP. The right to vote is not an NPP-NDC matter. It goes beyond that. But you know, given the level of polarization in our country and so on, there's the need for us to achieve consensus. I am certain in my mind that the Electoral Commission as currently composed is incapable of leading us to that consensus. Why? Because you have commissioners who actually sit on radio and declare to the world that some of the political parties who are going to contest elections that they are going to referee are dangerous to the maintenance of the democratic dispensation we have. So if commissioners, if members of the Electoral Commission believe that some of the contestants in the next elections are a danger to democracy, why would they not survey them? And when they say this publicly, how can anybody have confidence in them? So they've lost the little capacity that they had in order to engineer a national consensus. And that is part of the crisis we are facing today. You understand? It's part of a huge crisis that we are facing today. Now, my brother, some things don't make sense. And if they don't make sense, they simply don't make sense. No matter what you do, they will not make sense. You want to bring political parties together in order to achieve a consensus. And the Electoral Commission decided to divide the political parties, bring some now, bring some later. What kind of meeting is that to achieve consensus? And then the reason we are giving is that the Electoral Commission does not have a room big enough to accommodate representatives of all the political parties. Who says that all meetings of the Electoral Commission must be held in Northridge? Is that Northridge or Ridge? The Ridge offices of the Electoral Commission. What offense would have been committed if that meeting had been held in the Accra Conference Center? Or if that meeting would have been held at the National Theatre, would any offense have been committed? So some of the things, they simply don't make sense. They simply don't make sense. And we are told this. And we are supposed to believe it and work with it and so on. The Electoral Commission comes to us and says, hey, we are going to comply with all the restrictions. We have decided that when it comes to registration of voters, there shouldn't be more than 25 people at the registration point. Massa, check. There are more than 20 political parties in this country today. Okay? And if every political party is to have just one representative at the registration center, there will be no registration because the political parties alone will take up all the space. There will be no registration. But we are not just going to have political parties. We are going to have EC officials. We are going to have election observers. We are going to have security people and so on. So if the political parties alone are more than the 25, the representatives are more than the 25, how can you have a registration? But they tell us this and they want us to believe. Now I want to ask one more question. The EC has decided that we shouldn't have more than 25 people at a time. Okay. How is the EC going to ensure that? People will be given numbers in their home. So you know you are number 20. And number 20, you are supposed to be there at this time and then you go. Or what? In any case, when the first 25 have entered the registration point, where would the others be? Where would the others be? The 25 have entered there, the place is full up. The excess, more than 25, where would they be? Would they be in my house? Where would they be? Common sense. They will gather somewhere. They will gather somewhere. Now, if there can be social distancing where they will gather, why would there not be social distancing at the point of registration? You see, sometimes when these people sitting on that commission speak, the impression I get is that they have never been involved in elections in Ghana. They don't know what happens at the polling station. They have never been involved in elections. Because anybody who has been involved in elections, who has trained election observers before, who has been at the polling station from morning till evening observing things, would not come up with these useless regulations that they've come up with. Those regulations simply don't make any sense at all. Master, there is no sense in the regulations that they have put forward. They have no experience with actual voting and so on. And then, I'm hearing some stories which frighten me. Some stories which appear to confirm the fears of Bernard Mornah. Look, all of this K2 South thing and so on, what is that meant to do? K2 South people, they are not Ghanaians. What is this? K2 South, they are not Ghanaians. Why? Why K2 South? Why K2 South? Somebody should come and explain to me why K2 South. You know, this ethnic bigotry can lead this country to doom. As we are speaking here, you already have a thriving secessionist movement in the Volta region. I don't support secession. I am completely opposed to secession. But go and read the justifications for the secession. What are they saying? That they are marginalized. That we don't consider them Ghanaians. We always claim that they are Togolese. It is in some of their manuals and so on. You understand? And then we are going to have an election, and the most sensible thing you can do is to claim that Togolese, Votarians, some Votarians are Togolese, who infiltrate your country to vote for you, to vote for parties of their choice and so on. Are you sensible? Are you trying to prevent chaos? I mean, I can't believe it. Are you sensible? So you create a huge suspicion about people coming from a particular region. What are you trying to do? To divide our country? To fuel the secessionist movement and so on? Sena, I think it was this year or last year. I think it was this year. The finance minister went to parliament, and I want to believe the finance minister. I don't think that the finance minister is that much of a crack. You understand? So I want to believe him. I think there was a genuine error of omitting roads from the Volta region in the budget. Do you know what happened after that? The security should know. National security should be telling all these people talking by heart on radio and television the consequences of that. The secessionist movement gained momentum. So look, they don't even think about us. They can go to parliament and forget the roads in the Volta region. We are not part of them. They've always maltreated us. Here is the evidence. Thankfully, that error was corrected as quickly as possible. And I was happy that the government corrected the error. But what has happened? The bad noises that are being made about Ketu South and others would question the mandate of the government. They are saying that the voters' register which was used was not credible. Now, if the voters' register is not credible, how can the outcome of the election be credible? So by making those arguments, they are actually questioning the credibility of the government. They are questioning the mandate of the government. And I feel bad about it. You understand? I feel really bad about it. Sena, listen, we have a government which won elections, which claims were clean, they were fair, they were transparent, and so on. And they are sitting there, they are governing us, they are exercising our mandate, our sovereignty has been reposed in them, and so on. 5 months to another election, you say, no. Yes, we won the election, but it was not clean. They are saying it all, not me. And you want the people of Ghana to accept that you won elections with a defective electoral roll and still go into an election on your word. Hey, Massa, what is this? Let me stop here. Look, there's so much to say about what is happening that if we want to sit here and do all the analysis, we would never get out of this studio. There's so many things have been said which simply do not make sense. So many things have been said which are annoying and insulting to the Ghanaian. Look, I've heard Dr. Ibn Chambers, I read him only yesterday, saying that this election is so crucial that we need to take our time and we need to achieve a certain consensus. Ibn Chambers, okay? I've heard people from all sections of the Ghanaian society speaking out. Me, when I hear my brother Chumboafu and others saying some people who are supposed to speak are not speaking and so on, I get angry. Who are those special people who are supposed to speak?
Oh, you want an answer?
Every Ghanaian is supposed to speak, and no voice is better than another in an election. Equality of citizens, and so on. And the people who have to speak, they are speaking. The people who must speak and are speaking are the people who love this country and want to prevent chaos. As for the people who love chaos, who like the current dispensation, and so on, who are not speaking, let them keep quiet. In fact, the more they keep quiet, the better it is for our society. The more they talk, the more we are in danger. Must have finished.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. And well, that should end the discussion on the very first topic of on Alhaji and Alhaji today. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll deal with COVID-19.
The nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him. Ghana showboy, Africa's great son, Sergeant Dr. Nkrumah. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He's the Redeemer and the champion.
Welcome back from that break. And you're welcome to, if you just join us, you're welcome to Mother of All Shows. You've missed a lot, by the way, but thank you very much. We have a strong representation on Facebook, like I keep saying. Well, let me read a couple of your messages. Ayu Farouk in Tamale North says, we need men of honor, high level of integrity. If Jean Mensa with the unholy matrimony with the MPP cannot manage a simple process such as election, they should do the needful. Hashtag EC must listen. Well, this one is from Hamza in Pig Farm. Alhaji Hamza, who says, Sena, the truth be told, my heart bleeds for this nation, and I am sad this morning. My humble opinion, Madam Jean Mensa and Mr. Bossman, and for that matter, the EC as a whole, are dangers to the peace of this country. The EC today is telling us that the registration exercise will start at the late end of June and end at the late July without giving specific timelines. This is sad and pathetic. But in all this, where is the eminent advisory board? They are not talking. Why? But let me assure the MPP and the EC that when injustice becomes a law, then they should not forget that resistance will become the duty of the day. Please tell the MPP man that I said they should keep their advice to themselves. We don't need it. Thank you, Hamza, for that message. And we're talking about COVID-19 next. Unfortunately, I'm 32 minutes past 11, so which means I can afford 5 minutes each for each of the panel. I know, Doc, I know the ranking member on the health committee has a lot to say. Has a lot to say. That will still afford you 7 minutes.
I thank you very much. But before I go to that particular topic, there are certain things I want to clear from the previous discussion. Number one, it has been established since my brother Dr. Adomaku started his submission, he was not able to give a single reason why we should do a compilation of refugees. The two reasons that he gives, as far as I'm concerned, do not make sense. And because he has dealt with that about a woman with, I mean, her beauty, but that one, let me leave that one aside. Number two, the bit of it, with all respect, the bit of it that has to do with people who will be recruited to do the national, exercise for the registration. The total amount of money involved, which is about 800 million Ghana cedis, and I'll read my lips if you can see it at all, not more than 1/10 will even go to those people. And even with that, sometimes it takes them as much as 3 to 4 months before they are paid. And if any responsible government wants to create jobs for the youth of this country, that shouldn't be the platform. And so that can never be one of the reasons why we should entertain any new register. Again, he attempted to correct me when I suggested that we were going to use 6 days for the compilation of a register. Let me read the press release from the Electoral Commission. If you go to methodology for the registration exercise, the cluster system of registration will be used during the upcoming exercise. It will be done simultaneously in all the districts to constituencies nationwide, with each cluster consisting of five registration centers. In all, there will be 5 phases during the registration period, with each registration team working for a period of 6 days in each registration center. 6 days. So after every 6 days, they will have a resting period before they continue in other parts of the constituency. So it is not as though every registration center is going to have an opportunity for about 40 or 33 days continuous. That is not the point. Just like the NIA registration, they finish within an area and move. When they move out of that jurisdiction or that area or that cluster, those in that cluster do not have the opportunity to register again. So strictly speaking, they are dealing with a cluster of polling stations, and they have given them
Polling station numbers have been reduced.
polling. No, but you see, that is why you are even going to create a problem. It means that if you reduce them, you are going to get more people at the center, and there's going to be overcrowding.
Each polling station, total number registered per polling station has been reduced. It used to be over 1,000. But it's been reduced.
No, but even if you do a simple calculation, I'm coming. If you do a simple calculation of registering 50 people a day per all these restrictions, and you have only 6 days per center, and then the center, don't forget that the center is more than 800 because it's a cluster of polling stations. So if it's about 4 polling stations per cluster, it is 4 multiplied by the 800 you are talking about. Am I making sense? So it is not simplistic. So please, let us think through this issue carefully. Now, let's move to issues of COVID. I am going to err on the side of caution because the president hasn't spoken yet, and we do not know which restrictions he's going to ease. So I want to be very, very, very careful here. But the fact still remains that the figures are increasing. You see, when you move out there, and per the behavior of government, it's as though the disease or the virus is no more in existence. So everybody is going about his or her normal duties. And let me make this point clear. And anytime I appear on any platform, I entreat people to take the precautionary measures seriously because the virus is real. The virus is real. You know, as I speak to you now, the figures are above 7,000. You know, the figures are around 7,616, thereabout. So it is real, and it is still spreading. Right from day one, we started suggesting certain pertinent measures to the government, including calling on Mr. President to show the highest commitment in the initial stages. When they told us that when the minister responsible for health speaks, it must not, require the president to come and speak again. But today, every single suggestion we give, we have been vindicated. And you see, when it comes to issues of health, I do not want to be vindicated, because before you are vindicated, it gets a lot of confusion and a lot of mess in the system. So now you remember when we suggested that they should evacuate students, Ghanaian students who were in China. They took us to the cleaners, and the day I heard the president himself repeating that, I was shocked. From the president himself to the minister to the senior callers, they said that was not reasonable. Today, as I speak to you, they are bringing Ghanaians from other countries that have recorded cases of COVID-19. What about that? I've heard issues of the fact that that in that case they have been they don't have correct documents in those countries, and that they have been deported, and that is why government has gone to pick them. Whether they were deported or they were evacuated, the final destination is Ghana, and the fact still remains that there is COVID-19 in that particular country. So if we could ensure those precautionary measures or those protocols to bring them to Ghana, why couldn't we do same for our people in China? And when we suggested those things, they said, hey, they took us to the cleaners, and they said all manner of things about us. And so we think that still the virus is spreading, and government, number one, must ensure that we still have enough PPEs in the system. So now, as I speak to you now, you go to some district hospital and don't have a single PPE. And in this era, every patient is a potential carrier of the virus. Every patient is a potential carrier of the virus. If we want to move ahead of the virus, we should not wait until somebody reports to the hospital and the person is suspected of carrying the virus before we move in to do contact tracing. At least what is expected of government is to be doing mass testing. So if you go to areas, regions, or districts where we have not recorded cases yet, by now, government should be there doing mass testing. We should be there. We should have some kits, testing kits, that could help us to that is the only way you'll be able to determine your real status as a country. And we should be giving daily update how many they are testing, not double counts, and not cases that they have tested before, but daily.
Okay.
Daily, every day, they should be able to give us how many they have tested and how many out of those they have tested are positive. Okay. You know, that is when you'll be moving ahead of the virus. But if you keep, even if you test one person twice, you're counting it as two. And one thing that is not helping this situation at all is about the doubt that has been created around the figures that government announce all the time. You remember Professor Kosa saga, when government came out to rubbish his assertion, and quite recently they repeated that same thing on their website when they reported around 7,015 thereabout, and then they quickly withdrew that one to replace it with 7,600. And you remember?
No, it was 7,330.
Very good. That's sharp. You understand? And you also remember when they reported that we had peaked. As at when we had recorded about 4,000 cases. Now we are still rising. And so there should be transparency in the management. When they are managing such a pandemic, transparency is also a key factor that will bring everybody on board. You understand? And so I believe that we are still not managing the virus very well. And even if we are going to ease any restrictions at all, we must be very careful. There are countries where they've eased restrictions, and immediately, especially immediately after reopening schools, they had to close the schools down again because they saw spikes in those countries. So we must be very, very, very careful. In as much as, going to church and the mosque are very important, we must be alive before we can serve God. Okay. Or we must be alive before we can contribute our quota to the development of this country. And so we must be very, very careful in terms of the easing of the restrictions.
Honorable, thank you. Thank you very much, Honorable Komnaminta Kando. Dennis Yakwete is saying, is it true that the intended EC registration exercise is not going to include facial and iris recognition after all? If true, is the EC only going to embark on an exercise of creating a register just to replace a register with same specifications? In other words, the logic is that going forward, another political party in power can also push behind the scene to do another biometric register just to replace an existing biometric register, with a huge cost involved when large majority of Ghanaians cannot get access to potable water. Has Ghana become a banana republic? I just cannot fix it because I thought the biometric voters register secured in 2012 was to save cost in various forms. Shalom. Chris and Ashalibo, she also says, Jean Mensah should know that she is the electoral commissioner of Ghana. She is not the CEO of Disneyland of California or Miracle Garden in Dubai, where things are done for fun. The destiny of Ghana is in her hands, so she must watch her dancing steps, because if the rhythm of her dancing moves go bad, she will also stumble and hurt her legs. If the president is succeeded in executing the grand agenda of the NPP by removing Charlotte Osei without stress, patriotic Ghanaians can remove her even before the election. Doc.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity again. With regards to one comment Honorable made, but I need to just help people. I mean, you know, I love statistics so much. You can peak and numbers will still go high, largely because that's the nature of these things. If you peak at 4,000, each day, if your numbers are still going high, your graph can still be going down. I hope that makes sense to you.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, okay. So you are peaking at the number of cases you are getting per day. So if in a day you are getting maybe 200 cases, and then 300, and then 400, and then 500, and you peak per the number of cases you are getting in a day to maybe 560, and then it drops, you'll still be having more cases, but you may be reducing the number of cases you are getting per day. Please, am I making sense?
No, you are not.
Making sense only in as much as the reporting, because I'm also an animal when it comes to statistics.
Okay.
You are saying that you've peaked, but the problem is that people are still getting infected. Look, that is the problem.
Are we agreeing
The rate is even still going high.
And the rate of spread.
No,
So the denominator here is very important. You see, let me come in.
Yeah, I know. I think Nombo wants to let him.
Because my clarification was the fact that you said that we've peaked, but the numbers are still going high. So are you saying that the numbers per day are still going high?
Exactly.
If you say that, then
Exactly
I'm okay
the point.
with that.
Exactly
But when you
the
say
point.
you are peak and you are still going high, then I have a problem with that. Am I clear on that level?
Me, sir, I don't agree to that one, sir.
Well. Anyway, so let me come in here. There's one thing that is certain: COVID-19 is real. Lives are being lost, and I would still repeat it. It is a 5.5 rate per whatever we've measured. What I mean by that is, if we're having 7,000, then statistically we are actually rather in a range of 5.5 times the 7,000 in the country. That is science. Now, what is very important is we need to remind ourselves as a nation and as people that even if the president has lifted the COVID-19 lockdown, the disease still remains. And it's important that we all take the needed action to prevent the spread, to prevent the contraction, and to prevent the death. And I'm pleading on this big platform, let's reduce as much the politics involved. And for once, that case of COVID-19, let's agree to make sure that we prevent the spread. With regards to our president talking tomorrow, we are praying that he talks and does it as he's always done for the nation, because I believe that the president has the nation at heart. With regards to bringing people in distant nations, I think in hindsight, even in hindsight, because of the 2-3 months we have now, we can say this decision or that decision could have been made this way or better. Regardless, what is very important is that day in and day out, we're learning something new about COVID-19. Day in and day out, Ghana remains blessed in terms of our death rate. And I'll plead with everybody who has an opportunity to provide PPEs to help any hospital, any facility that they can. As Honorable Akando has said, that some facilities are still without. It is our plea on this platform that Ghana Health Services and the government, I mean, I'm talking as a medical practitioner here, that we do our very best to equip everybody. And we still should stay alert, reduce our commute around. If you don't need to be out, please stay at home, so that you don't go take COVID and bring it to your father, to your mother, to your siblings, or to your grandparents. And I'll plead. I think more education is important, and all the media houses who are doing a good job. I mean, I've been impressed with Sena. Each time we come, there's one way you squeeze COVID in there, and I think that is commendable. And I hope that through this, Akondo would sponsor more people into medical education, as Baumia has done recently, because I mean we all know it's been commendable, and I think you will commend it. We've added to graduate education in medicine And that is commendable. I think you have to agree to that. and I think that
you want to copy another chapter?
We all know that Honorable His Excellency Vice President has pushed an agenda to educate more practitioners, and I think that is wonderful in times like this. And I believe that COVID is going to change Ghana through and through in terms of health sector budget. COVID is going to change Ghana in terms of our need to improve our local health systems. And that is what I'll close on. That hopefully by December 7th, we'll all be alive and well, and some better management of COVID would be known. That's what I hope.
Thank you, Doc.
I agree with him.
Thank you, Doc.
Better management.
Dr. Jehoapia says more than 200 schools in South Korea have been forced to close just days after they reopened due to the new spike in virus cases. And then Zila Community 25 says, Sena, what has happened to the consciences of the so-called loud voices? Why are they quiet about the current happenings in the country? Uncle Kwesi Pratt is always on point. He never disappoints. Mr. Chomboafo.
I was going to just use my submission to read what Dr. Jehoapia sent me. So I'll just read a little bit of it.
Okay.
Coronavirus. South Korea closes schools again after the biggest spike in weeks. It says thousands of students had earlier on Wednesday returned to school as the country began easing virus restrictions. But just a day later, 79 new cases were recorded, the highest daily figure in 2 months. Most of these cases have been linked to a distribution center outside Seoul. Now listen to the most interesting part. The warehouse in the city of Bocheon is run by the country's biggest e-commerce firm, Coupang. And officials have said the facility was not strictly complying with infection control measures. Health officials have even discovered traces of COVID-19 on workers' shoes and clothes. So my friends in the EC, who are busy buying PPEs to protect themselves as against the rest of us, even the PPE, coronavirus feed data. So you see, stop playing. You people should stop playing. You are playing with people's lives. Cancel that damned registration and go and do a limited registration exercise, because you are going to kill people. There's another article on CNN that everybody should go and read. CNN have reported that Ghana's mortuaries are full. You know why? One of the things that people are not reporting about COVID-19, and Dr. Adumaku Kisi sitting here, is that the other diseases that people are dying from are still killing people.
Hypertension, diabetes.
The other diseases. And everybody is afraid to take care of everybody else. Everybody is afraid to treat the malaria. Everybody is afraid to treat the other things that have been killing us from day one. So stop joking. Listen, MPP, this government, stop playing, because people are going to die. There is another secret that you people don't want anybody to know. Many people in Flagstaff House have gotten COVID-19.
That's one, yeah.
But you don't want people to know.
Where are your facts coming from?
Because he hasn't arrived.
Where are your facts coming from?
Akando, what has happened in Parliament? You see, you can't. COVID-19 is almost like pregnancy. You cannot hide it.
This one, yeah, not like.
Master, you see, I have over many years of being at this business of talking on radio and TV. I've developed a knack for not mentioning names.
Wow.
Yes, I've developed a knack for not mentioning names.
I am.
People in Jubilee House have gotten the disease. People in Parliament have gotten the disease.
True.
People I know, in fact, a certain gentleman who took care of me when I was in Achimota School, a fine and distinguished lawyer, got the disease. He communicated it to me that I had it. He doesn't live in this country. But thankfully, he's well. I am saying that this disease is dangerous.
Very, very.
It has killed doctors. It has killed lawyers. It has killed Pep Guardiola's mother. It has killed the best neurological surgeon this world has ever known. It has killed him. The man who separated 17 conjoined twins. It killed him. It has killed race car drivers. It has killed pilots. It has killed children. What is it that we are not understanding that let us decrease the probability that people will get it? I had a privilege, and it is a privilege, during my time as the CEO of Free Zones, to visit certain areas outside Salaga. And you know that people get to go shopping by sitting on a canoe and coming to the village, the shopping centers to buy and go back on that same canoe, navigating the stormy waters of the River Volta. You want those people to come and register in clusters? Clusters at the risk of contracting a disease and going back to the village and spreading it? And when are they going to get those patients to the hospital centers that are non-existent? What is wrong with you people? What is wrong? Must you win at all costs? Yeah, we've heard that. But we are not going to die at all costs. That is what Bernard Mornah was trying to tell you. That nobody is going to die for anybody. What don't you understand? For the first time in the history of humanity, in my 51 years, there is a disease that is killing poor people. It is killing rich people. It is killing in-between people. It is killing pastors. You know, and the funny thing is that for some reason, it's as if God is punishing some people. As soon as they go and gather in the church, they get it. You see, God himself, and I don't want to speak for God, but I bet you he has crept out of the kitchen door because he's had enough of us. What are we doing? We are destroying our environment. We are destroying humanity through acts of selfishness. The most powerful country in the world, the most advanced healthcare system in the world, the people with the best doctors in the world, they have 1.8 million occurrences and over 100,000 of them are dead today. And yet, when you go to Yemen, only 2 people have got it. You see, there is something incongruous going on. There is a certain correction that is going on, and we are not seeing it. Okay. Let us stop playing in this country. Look, Sena, lastly, my mother is 76 years old. Thankfully, she's in great health. My father is 86 years old. They are both alive today. They are in relatively good health. Do you want me to carry them to clusters outside Engelbert and tell them to go and wait and register? Or are you coming to register them during the pilot period, like most of your people are going to do? Register people in pilot period. Do you want me to carry Mr. and Mrs. Shumwafu to Engelbert where they vote and let them wait in the sun and catch coronavirus and then I take them home and go and marry them? Or me myself, a diabetic, I will carry myself there and go and register and then catch it and go and die before Akufo-Addo leaves.
Thank you.
You see?
Thank you very much.
Stop playing.
Thank you very much.
Stop playing.
Thank you very much. I'll go with it.
Well, yesterday, there was a very interesting and sad story which broke yesterday. And I'm wondering how many people actually heard the story and are concerned about the story. It's a story of a gentleman who was suspected of having COVID-19 and was taken to a hospital. And the wife spoke on radio yesterday. I heard the wife on Peace FM yesterday. And the mother-in-law also spoke. And what they simply said was that when they took the man to the hospital, the health personnel refused, is it the appropriate word? Refused to touch him. So when they had to take his temperature, they gave the temperature gun to the wife. You go and do it yourself.
Wow.
Eventually, the man died. And I heard the loud voices of condemnation. The health workers should not behave like that and so on. You understand? What we need to understand very clearly are that health workers are also human beings. Health workers have children. They have parents. They have uncles. They live in the community. They don't want to die. Indeed, they don't want to commit suicide. What was reported yesterday is happening in many health facilities. Not all, many health facilities. And I'm glad that we have a medical officer here. If what I'm saying is not true, please say it. The only reason why this is happening is that health workers do not feel protected enough. If they don't have the PPEs, they would not touch patients suspected of having COVID-19. What is happening is the indication of the panic among health workers who are not protected enough. Yes, sir. Before I heard this on radio yesterday, last week, I met with some nurses and had a conversation with them and so on. And they were telling me their daily experiences. In one health facility, which I would not mention, if you enter that health facility and woe betides you if you cough, you are out of there in seconds. They will write a referral note for you to go quickly.
For small study.
Pardon?
For small study.
Aha, oh you are. So this is the reality. And we are joking. Creating the impression that everything is fine, everything is honky-donkey, everything is cool. It is not. The health personnel themselves, they are diving for cover. Everywhere, they are diving for cover. You understand? Quite apart from that, people who have other ailments and so on, not COVID-19, they have other ailments. People who have diabetes, who have hypertension and so on, they are refusing to go into the hospitals. Fear. People have morbid fear of the hospitals. So that is worsening their condition. I know many people, I know somebody who had all the symptoms of malaria. You understand? And I went to the house. I said, please go to the hospital. He said, never. Never. I should take my malaria symptoms into a hospital and go and get corona. Let me die here. You understand? Doctor, you've had those experiences. So it is not just about COVID-19. COVID-19 has its own problems. It is killing people. It is creating all kinds of things and so on. But COVID-19 is compounding a general health situation.
And to add to it, some are taking bad concoctions to prevent COVID-19, and they are even dying from that too.
Fantastic. You understand? Now, Master, I'm going to say something. The World Health Organization has suspended even tests of hydroxychloroquine. Suspended it all. Because they have sufficient evidence to show that people who were not on the drug were more likely to survive than those who take the drug. In the United States of America, many people have died by taking that drug. And I know what I'm saying. I want to hope I want to hope that we have not started using the drug here. Because listen, even in Brazil, under Jair Bolsonaro, who everybody knows is the worst type of Trump, when patients have to take chloroquine, any form of chloroquine, they have to sign an undertaking that they are voluntarily and willingly submitting themselves for chloroquine to be used on them. So that in the event that they have problems with chloroquine, they cannot hold the authorities responsible. In most parts of the world, I'm not saying every part of the world, in most parts of the world, today, before you administer chloroquine to patients, you have to tell them, you have to seek their consent. I want to hope, I am praying that we have not started using chloroquine in Ghana. Because that would be a huge scandal. Finish.
Thank you very much.
Very important point. As recent as Thursday, some of the people taking samples of members of parliament to test, some of them, a group of them approached me and indicated to me that the government has not yet paid their allowances as recent as Thursday. And sometimes I get shocked over some of these issues, irrespective of the amount of money that Parliament has voted for this particular exercise. And you still hear that people doing contact tracing and what have you are not being paid. It's quite discouraging, to say the least. And people are resigning because of that. So if you've realized, now testing has even declined. Contact tracing and enhanced contact tracing have declined. And so I think that government must look at that aspect again. Finally, so now, I do not see the reason why that anybody at all will stigmatize anybody for having COVID-19. So let us desist from doing that. It won't help anybody. I think that part of the blame should be laid at the doorstep of our people who are managing the issue. We didn't manage it well, but I'm not going to go into it now. But what is important is that those who are listening to me this morning or this afternoon, those who are viewing this program, should desist from stigmatizing. If somebody gets malaria or somebody gets any other flu, and then you will not stigmatize the person, there's no point in stigmatizing anybody who contracts COVID-19.
Thank you.
Sena, if I
Thank you.
Congrats once again.
Because I ran out of
There were over 1,400 people watching this program on Facebook alone. Well done. Compare that to a rival program which had the people 266 people.
Well, Michael Flew in Greater Kuwait says, good morning, Sena.
But Sena, the fact now is that if you're rating television stations, you have to take the strength of Pan-African television into account. Today, in Ghana, today, it's not coming up, it's up.
No, I hear so.
It is dominating the whole of the North. Total domination. No doubt. And it is competing and beating the established stations even in Accra. That's the reality. Kojo just gave some statistics.
Congratulations.
Nobody comes close.
Even as we are ending, 900 people are still watching. At the peak, it was 1,400 plus.
That's on Facebook alone.
On Facebook alone.
On Facebook alone.
We're even on YouTube. It was one of the things that my attention was drawn to. So we were on
Let's
YouTube.
always watch it on the screen.
Let's keep closing down the radio stations. It will
Michael Flew in Greater Kuwait says, let Dr. Adomako Kisi and Gabi Ochudaku know that I can be a registered voter in Ketu South, but live and work in Accra. On voting day, I go to Ketu South to vote. It is therefore possible that the number of people living in Ketu South will be less than the number of registered voters in Ketu South. Just a few things to do, one or two. This one is from Angelo Kojofiakbe, who is been a strong supporter of this show. He says, Sena, the Queen Mother of my hometown, Avedakpa in Akachi North District, is 60 years today. Mamaga Sachikbe, the third, the paramount Queen Mother of Avedakpa, is celebrating her birthday today amidst the provocation from the... Well, so let's say happy birthday to Mamaga Sachikbe, the third, paramount chief, paramount queen of Avedakpa. Happy birthday to her. And Kojofi Agbe says he's the only person in his family who has a traveling passport You have to guarantee for his mother, father, siblings, and grandmother who are in 170.
You'll be the only one to vote. If you have not traveled before and you have passports, means not traveling one.
Let me also say a happy birthday to Firdaus Nasakli Tete. It's from Karen Kwe to you. And also Eraisi Pobi from your father, Eric Pobi. Eric Pobi is the driver who drives me from Radio Gold here to Pan-African TV. And so happy birthday to Eraisi Pobi. A happy birthday to you. And thank you very much for watching the show. Like I said, we have a wonderful followership on Facebook and on various social media platforms. Now we are streaming live. When we are doing this program, we stream live on YouTube, Pan-African Television. A big thank you for the massive support on social media. Like Honorable said, very, very important. That kind of attitude doesn't help our case. Let's support people. Let's be the people to encourage those who have symptoms of the disease to go and test. Because when the other person gets treated, you save yourself. Very, very important. And don't forget, the precautions are necessary. Continue to take it. We are still waiting for that address by the president tomorrow. And I'm sure there'll be a lot to talk about after he is done. My name is Sena Nombo. You heard Mr. Kwesi Praji now is managing editor of the Inside newspaper. Always wonderful having him in the studio. Wonderful insights. Dr. Adomako Kisi is aspiring to be the parliamentary candidate of the NPP in Anya Sowutum. And also, Kojo Chumbwafo is a leading member of the NDC. And I keep calling him Doc, even though he has no technical expertise in health. Governor Minta Akando is member of parliament for Joaboso, ranking member on the health committee of parliament and also the subsidiary legislation committee. A member on the subsidiary, not a ranking? No, a member on the subsidiary legislation committee, ranking member on the health committee. A big thank you to the wonderful crew here at Pan-African TV for the wonderful work they've been doing and keeping this show going. Have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week. We are back same time next week.
He's the Redeemer and the champion of liberty, of human equality. Let's salute him, fellow Ghanaians, the nation's founder, Sergeant Kwame Nkrumah. May God bless him, Ghana show boy, Africa's great son, Sergeant Dr. Nkrumah.